in the on the SuperTalk TV and, of course, C-Smart TV, Channel 70. We need to mention that more because I think we got a better audience than CNN does, to be honest with you, on Channel 70 and the C-Spire platform across the state. The one and only Sid Salter. Good morning, brother. How are you doing?
Doing great, Paul. How are you?
I'm good days and great days. This one happens to be a great day. I feel a little bit better today than yesterday, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Keep fighting, brother. You'll get there.
You got it. We got so many different things to talk about, but yesterday we were communicating back and forth with Alex, and I said one of the things that I really wanted to pick your brain on is the things that really matter in your world when you start looking at things across the state of Mississippi today. And I know, first of all, how do you decide what the next article is going to be, the next thing you pour your heart into to write? And does that come from the thing that worries you the most, or the thing that you think is the most important?
Well, I'm kind of to the point in life that if I'm not interested in a topic, I don't particularly want to spend the time doing the research. So, and I, like everybody else, last conversation I had at the gas pumps, last conversation I had after church, I try to listen to what people in the community are talking about and go from there. Tomorrow's column is about the correlation or the lack thereof of, historically high gas prices and static fuel taxes at the state and federal level, and at a time when the cost of maintaining or building a mile of road has never been higher. The amount of revenue coming in to underwrite that is static and flat. So we're farther behind the curve. And if you look at the numbers on that from both the federal and state level, paints a kind of bleak picture moving forward. And of course, there's the other angle of what do we do with electric cars and that impact on road and bridge maintenance funds from the state and federal level. The most popular vehicle in the state of Mississippi, according to Kelly Blue Book data, is the Ford F-150 pickup truck. I drive one. I understand that. Yeah. But, now you've got this new electric truck coming out that is apparently so popular they've had to double production. And so what does that do long term to our ability to not only build roads, but just to maintain the ones we've got? So, that's a topic that was of interest to me. And of course, the combination of gas prices, inflation, war in Ukraine, supply chain, all of these things, the impact that has on the upcoming elections, that's of interest.
Yesterday there was a good article out there, and here's part of it here. President Biden said that the country is going through an incredible transition away from fossil fuel via the high gas prices being experienced nationwide. He speaks to this as almost it's a great thing. Biden made the statement on gas prices during the joint press conference in Japan. Here's the situation, he said, when it comes to gas prices. We're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, will be stronger, and the world will be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuels when this is over. I got to tell you, Sid, it reminded me of the parent who refused to give medicine to their child because they thought God was going to heal him, and God's at the same time screaming, I got a doctor waiting for you at the hospital. I believe Joe Biden thinks that he is doing something so transformative that we are all so damn lucky to be suffering together to get to the Rubicon. It scares me.
Well, at the beginning of the Biden presidency, the debate was over whether Biden would meet his the left wing of his party in the middle, or he'd shift all the way to the left and get into the Green New Deal and all this. The way things have evolved with the pandemic and the resulting supply chain issues and all these other forces that are influencing the economy, now it's a matter of once he interrupted the flow of oil from the North Slope in Alaska, you had this cascading effect that put us on the path to these fuel and energy prices, and it's just become a perfect storm. And it doesn't feel quite as magical and transition-y. $72 to fill up a vehicle, and of course, I've heard all the arguments about drive a smaller vehicle, yada yada. The fact is, in the part of the country we live in, people drive large vehicles because they do large work, most of them, and so we are on a path that we didn't get into quickly. We're not going to get out of quickly. I think the problems that we're dealing with right now will certainly go through the rest of the year. In the exchange with Alex, she mentioned talking about inflation. We're really not dealing with just inflation right now. And this is an old word, Paul, that you and Perez are old enough to have heard before. Stagflation. You've got inflation, and it's stagnant inflation because it's going to last for a while, and it's aggravated by high unemployment. Now, you can debate the cause of the unemployment, but it's there. So you've got stagnant inflation, you've got high unemployment. People are having to put bounties on workers to do, low-skilled jobs. We're not talking about skilled workers. Low-skilled jobs, employers are having to put a financial bounty out there to hire folks to work. And so stagnant inflation, that's going to be with us for a while. Listen, I've told a lot of people, $4 a gallon gas, you can elect Satan to office. And so
listen, I talked to a friend of mine yesterday. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday, also has a Ford F-150. I think it was a 150, maybe it was a 250, but it was over $100 to fill up where he filled up. $100. When you talk about the rural people who live, in their castle 15, 20, 30, 40 miles away from work, it is devastating what this guy has done. And he thinks he's doing a great thing for America to transition us. But somewhere down the line, we're going to have to, those people with these EVs, you're going to pay. Somewhere down the line, the Democrats are going to come out and say, you've got to pay for infrastructure. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment. Let's get back live on a Tuesday at Trustmark Studios, where Advantage Program may help you secure your financial future. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender. Check it out. Sid Salter with us, and one of the things that people are not talking about at all, Sid, is the tremendous harm this is doing as far as diesel is concerned, because diesel runs this country. From everything from delivering stuff to the power generations and everything else. And we think regular gasoline's high. Diesel's just unbelievable. And natural gas. All of it.
Well, certainly the supply chain issues and the impact that has on inflation is kind of put on crack by these high diesel prices. And so it cascades into... and we were talking earlier, stagnant inflation. This is going to be hard to come out of. It's going to affect, obviously the financial markets. And, these are not flash in the pan issues. These are issues that will take years to work through. If you think back to the late 70s, and the whole whip inflation now thing that Gerald Ford tried, we're not going to slogan our way out of this. This is going to take
Sid.
Hard fiscal policy.
We had those little buttons. I remember that. I remember also some idiot making the decision to change every freaking 70-mile-an-hour sign on the interstate to 55 miles. The millions that probably cost. I forgot who was it. Ford or Carter that did that?
That was Carter.
It was Carter.
We're dating
where we
ourselves.
Changed. Yes,
we are indeed, aren't we?
Go ahead.
Well, the thing that I think is going to and kind of in order for looking at the congressional primaries in Mississippi, every reputable forecaster says all 4 House seats are safe districts. Congressman Thompson in the second, the 3 Republicans, everybody's in a safe seat according to the so-called experts. I think there may be a little tightening in 1 or 2 of those races because you've got primary influences. But I still think at the end of the day, the incumbents are in safe seats. But the issues that are going to impact the congressional elections, the price of gas and food and fuel prices, obviously the shortages, and look at the products that are impacted. The headline grabber is baby formula. When you've got folks that can't put gas in the car, can't fill up the baby's bottle with formula, that are paying anywhere from 10 to 25% higher food prices, that's the very definition of pocketbook politics. And in pocketbook politics, the party in power usually suffers significant erosion, and so I think this should bode well for the Republicans. But of course, as we saw in the 1970s with that inflationary surge, the Pottery Barn rule kicks in: you break it, you bought it. And so once the Republicans enjoy the surge that they will get in this round of elections, they gotta fix the economy, and that's not going to be easy or painless.
Especially when you're still going full speed the opposite direction, it doesn't look good. When the primary is June the 7th, right? Next Tuesday, June 7th, which is right around the corner now. So they are going to be important. We have another election today as far as a primary, I think in Georgia and several other places, and people are watching that with bated breath. There are so many other things that are going on. This didn't make a lot of news, and I don't know, maybe it did last week, and I had a couple of 3 days off, but the census report, excuse me, Mississippi added more than 100,000. They did a correction on the census report. Several states were corrected. One of those states were Mississippi, who was shortchanged. And instead of losing population in the state of Mississippi, which we were roundly, beaten up about, that we were just no growth or stagnant growth, apparently we added 100,000 to the state's population in the last census. Correction strikes the error that Magnolia State's growth was stagnant. Why wasn't this a bigger story?
Well, I'm around college students a lot, and to quote kind of the average student when something obvious is stated, well, duh. I think you could really kind of feel the undercount, and the undercount in the census has been with us for the last 40 years, and in different communities for different reasons over time. Back in the 50s, 60s, you had undercounts in black communities with white census takers, and then as we evolved past that, you had undercounts in black neighborhoods with black census takers, and of course all the way across the spectrum. The census is tedious, difficult work. and people with dogs that bite have to get counted, and folks that are counting them don't want to give up a chunk of their legs, so they skip the house. Undercount in the census has been with us. It will continue to be with us. But it just never felt like Mississippi had that kind of loss. And so I do think it was a significant story, but the news media, and again, this is a sure sign of getting old. The news media, by and large, doesn't take up stories of this nature in the way that they did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And so the analysis necessary to focus attention on this and to get people talking to their legislators, state and federal, about it, just not there.
And you're right, as far as the states on the list that don't trust government and don't want to fill out any forms, I think we'd probably be somewhere in the top three, so that adds to it also. But I got to tell you, you've been in the media a long time, too. It's disheartening, and I'm not a journalist, I'm opinion medium here, but it's disheartening to see what is left of newspapers out there or blog sites and everything else, and the ones that are liberal and the ones that are maybe not even so liberal is just broadcasting the bad parts, everything bad about Mississippi. And it just gets tiring. And when there's a halfway decent story, you at least like to see the shelf life at least 25 hours instead of 24 hours. But that's just me. When you look at the presidential election and everything going on there, what are your thoughts, sir? You think Trump is going to run?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think he will run.
That's another duh.
But now I do think that there is a schism. That's a good old word for churches splitting up. But there's a schism in the Republican Party that may play out as we head toward the primaries, and I think people are watching to see the value of Trump's endorsement or the lack thereof. I think there's also some attention paid on the ongoing investigations, but the economy has so outweighed every other factor moving toward the next presidential election that, as I say, and again, we keep going back to Gerald Ford and that era of inflation. When it gets to that point, the election becomes almost wholly and solely about voters finding some relief for what ails them in their purses and wallets. And I think that's what you're going to see this time.
And also, Sid, is because we're coming from an area, and I mentioned this a long time ago, we're not coming from a mediocre administration to a less than mediocre administration. We're coming from, it's like a coach that had a winning team to a coach that's been a complete failure. You don't have to be a baby boomer. You can be a relatively young voter to be able to compare where we were just yesterday to now, and that does make an impression. Final thoughts, sir?
Final thoughts, rooting for the Bulldogs in the Super Regional in softball.
That's
congratulating 3,800 Mississippi State graduates recently, and tonight I'm going to Forest, Mississippi to watch my grandson graduate.
How about that? Sid's always good. Enjoy the visit, sir. Thank you.